He raised his glass to his son's, and I slid the black envelope across the table. The room didn't notice right away. They were too busy laughing. The waiter poured another round of wine. The harbor lights shimmered through floor-to-ceiling windows, and the candle flames danced like nothing was wrong. But I was done pretending. Dad, Douglas Mercer, stood tall at the head of the long mahogany table, a deep Merlot swirling in his glass. His voice carried that rich, polished tone he always saved for rooms with an audience. "To Chad and Blake," he said, lifting his glass, "the future of this family." The Mercer legacy forks clinked, applause rose. My brothers grinned like royalty. No mention of me, not even a glance in my direction. I didn't lift my glass. I didn't smile. I just reached into my bag, pulled out the black envelope, and placed it gently on the linen-covered table, right in front of him. Right beside his plate of medium-rare filet and undeserved pride. He didn't notice it at first, too busy soaking in his own applause. Chad leaned back. Blake slapped his shoulder. I waited. The candlelight flickered over the matte black paper. My wine sat untouched, its rim dry, like I knew this wasn't a night to drink. "I remember when Blake got his first investor meeting," Dad went on. "I told him, 'Son, this is just the beginning.' And now look at him, regional director before 30. More applause, more empty praise. I said nothing. Then Chad added, "We owe it all to you, Dad." That's when he finally looked down and noticed the envelope. He paused. "What's this?" he asked, tapping it with 2 fingers. I looked him square in the eyes. "A Father's Day gift." The room quieted. Chad raised a brow. Blake snorted a laugh. Dad peeled the flap with his thumb, muttering something about surprises. He slid the paper out, unfolded it once, then again. His brow creased. The corners of his smile twitched, then fell. He read it once, blinked, read it again, then his hand trembled. Silence thickened around the table. The clink of cutlery stopped. Even the waiter, mid-pour, froze. He tore the seal open with one hand, and the grin died before he finished reading the first line. I stopped trying to impress him the day he said my scholarship was cute. I remember the way he said it, not angry, not dismissive, just amused. Like I'd handed him a crayon drawing instead of a full ride to the top-ranked business school in the state. Chad had just gotten a traffic ticket dismissed that morning. Dad toasted him with coffee and a grin. Blake failed 2 classes, but scored a goal in the soccer semifinals. That earned him a steak dinner. Me? I got a slice of dry toast and a pat on the head. "Cute," he said again, flipping the acceptance letter like it was junk mail. "Didn't even know you applied." That was the day I stopped speaking in full sentences around him. It had started long before that. I was 10 when I stayed up past midnight, crafting a Father's Day card with glitter, glue, and my own poem. He barely looked at it, set it down beside the remote, never picked it up again. I found it 2 days later in the trash, glitter still shining through coffee stains. The following year, Chad handed him a gas station mug that said, "#1 Dad." Dad laughed like he'd won an Oscar. He never asked about my day, never asked who my friends were, never noticed the ribbons taped to my mirror. Honor roll, first place in a countywide essay contest, state math league finalist. None of it made the dinner table, but Blake's soccer stats? Framed, hung by the staircase. Chad's first paycheck? Laminated. My report card stayed folded in my closet next to dried-up markers and stories I wrote that no one read. Even the pizza slices played favorites. 3 boys, 4 slices. Somehow, I always lost. "I didn't think you'd want the last piece," he said once. I did. I just stopped reaching for it. Mom tried in her way. She'd sneak me hugs in the laundry room, whisper, "You're special too, baby," like it was a secret. But when Dad raised his voice, she raised the volume on the TV. At 13, I asked for a sketchbook for Christmas. Dad didn't even look up from his paper. "What's the point?" he said. "You quit everything anyway." That one cut deep, deeper than I let anyone see. So I stopped asking, stopped needing, started building. I learned to find applause in silence, validation in late-night lights under my door, and motivation in every eye roll, every shrug, every "not now." I became quiet but not empty, invisible, but not gone. That night, I promised myself if he wouldn't see me, I'd make sure one day he'd have to answer to me. No one clapped when I signed my first lease, but I clapped for myself. The pen stuttered once before the ink caught. My name, Sloane Monroe, not Mercer. A name no one in that house had ever bothered to learn, not because it was hidden, but because they never asked. The landlord handed me the keys like he was passing off liability. "Pretty rough building," he said. "Most girls don't last more than a month." I smiled. I'm not most girls. The apartment was a shoebox. 2 windows, peeling paint, pipes that coughed when I ran the sink. But the silence was mine. I worked from the floor, legs crossed, laptop cracked and humming louder than the fridge. Sticky notes spread across the wall like a conspiracy. Passwords, pitch ideas, user flows, feature breakdowns. A whiteboard I salvaged from a college dumpster had one phrase written in red: "Build quiet, strike louder." I taught myself code between freelance gigs, wrote pitch decks in the margins of overdue bills, ate toast, drank instant coffee, slept in 4-hour shifts. No one asked if I was okay, so I didn't answer. The platform started with one simple idea: empower the overlooked, a job matching system that favored underdogs. Ironic, considering I was still cleaning floors at night to pay for the server. Investor meetings were brutal. Suits who called me sweetheart, who smiled through my pitch and ghosted by lunch. One man told me I was wasting my pretty face on back-end logic. I filed that under reasons I'll own your chair someday. I coded through Thanksgiving, slept through New Year's, missed Blake's engagement dinner, Chad's baby shower, and every fake smile in between. The Mercer family group chat kept dinging. I muted it. Their holiday photos blurred into one long performance. I didn't send the Christmas card that year, but I mailed myself the articles of incorporation. They arrived in a flat manila envelope, legal weight, my new name embossed on the top. I placed it inside a locked drawer, along with my birth certificate, a worn Polaroid of my mom holding me as a baby, and a single Father's Day card I never gave him. The drawer clicked shut. The apartment was still cold, but the silence? It didn't feel empty anymore, because something was building beneath it. Something with weight, with wiring, with purpose. And it had my name all over it. Dad's login expired the same morning his promotion was announced. He walked into the building with that same smug stride, tie straight, ego higher. The front desk receptionist smiled like she always did. "Congratulations, Mr. Mercer," she said. "Big title bump, huh?" He winked. "COO, finally. Took long enough." The elevator doors closed behind him and the silence felt earned. On the 32nd floor, his badge flicked red on first scan, then again. A small shake of the reader, third try, still red. He laughed it off. "Stupid thing," he muttered, tapping the glass like it owed him something. The intern nearby offered to help. "Let me just check with IT," she said. He waved her off. "It's fine, sweetheart. Probably just the new security protocols." It wasn't. Upstairs, the desk that used to carry his nameplate now sat empty. No coffee waiting, no morning printouts. Just a blinking screen that refused his credentials. Incorrect password. Invalid session token. Access denied. He tried his backup code, the one only 3 people were supposed to know. Still nothing. He dialed IT. First, it rang, then it routed. Then someone picked up, quiet, steady breathing. "Yeah," he said, voice already agitated. "This is Douglas Mercer. My login isn't working." Pause. "Yes, sir," the voice said. "We're aware. Can you hold for a moment?" A moment passed, then another. Then the line clicked, not to a tech, not to a fix, to me. "Hi, Dad," I said. Silence. I could hear it, his breath catching, the sound of a truth forming too late. "You're what? Why is this?" I didn't answer. Just let him sit in the static. Because 3 weeks ago, I closed a deal no one saw coming. A full acquisition, private, quiet, complete. Mercer Systems was no longer run by its founding board. It was under Monroe equity now. My equity. My name. The paperwork sat in a locked drawer, time-stamped and sealed. The signature above his, legal and binding. I never changed the title plaque on his door. Didn't update the internal directory. I let the illusion hold for a while, but that morning it cracked. He hung up, then called back. IT again. HR next. Legal. Anyone who would tell him it was a mistake. Each call came back the same. "We'll get back to you, sir." But they wouldn't. Because I already had, he called IT. They called me. Blake joked about firing interns. I'd already reassigned his department. He said it loud, loud enough for the whole floor to hear. "Elbows off the keyboard, newbie. One typo and I'll send you packing." The intern, Maya, didn't flinch. She just smiled, nodded, and forwarded the email to me. Subject line, Mercer behavior. "Again, do you want a handle or should I?" I smiled. She'd catch on quick. That week, I finalized the restructure. Blake's department, Creative Partnerships, was now officially merged under a shell division I'd formed 3 months earlier. All oversight rerouted, all signatures funneled through proxy. From the outside, it looked like streamlining. Inside, it was surgical extraction. He still thought he was running the show. At the board meeting, he bragged about closing a licensing deal, used phrases like vertical synergy and lead generation. Everyone nodded. I let him talk. He didn't know the contract had already been approved, didn't know the numbers were revised, didn't notice the email went out on my letterhead. Didn't even blink when I slid a printed copy across the table to the intern beside him. Maya smiled, signed it, and filed it without a word. I rewrote the org chart that night, deleted the Mercer legacy lines, renamed 3 branches under Monroe Ops. No press release, no memo, just quiet redirects. The power didn't leave with noise. It slipped out the side door and took their titles with it. Chad still boasted about leading strategic development. His emails got rerouted to my assistant. He wondered why no one responded. Blamed IT, then HR, then his team. Never once considered he wasn't the recipient anymore. The interns noticed first. They stopped copying him, started scheduling directly with me. Maya's cubicle sat 2 rows behind Chad's glass office. She heard him bark orders, saw the calendar updates go nowhere. We had a signal, pen cap twisted 3 times and left standing upright. That meant, execute the reroute. She twisted it every Monday. By Thursday, Chad was chasing shadows. "Nothing's syncing," he grumbled in the hallway. "Whole damn system's glitching." It wasn't. The system was perfect. It just wasn't his anymore. By the time they realized what I'd done, they'd already been reporting to me for weeks. The restaurant smelled like roses and red wine and something about to die. I arrived 10 minutes early, always did. Pulled the car into the spot directly across from the patio, left the engine purring. It was black, sleek, silent, like me. I didn't wait for valet, didn't need help with the door. I walked in alone. Neutral heels, muted dress, no jewelry, no armor, just the black envelope in my purse and the keys tucked beside it. The host blinked when I gave my name. "Sloane Mercer?" His mouth almost said, "Are you sure?" But stopped just in time. He led me past a wall of glass where the table glowed under string lights and laughter. They were already there. Dad at the head, Chad mid-joke, Blake nursing his second glass. Nobody saw me yet. The room was too warm, the wine too full. I slid into the last seat without ceremony, pulled the napkin over my lap, and placed my clutch on the table. The envelope inside pulsed like a second heartbeat. Blake finally looked up. "Whoa, look who crawled out of her cave." Chad smirked. "And here we thought you moved to Canada." Dad raised his glass lazily. Well, well, the prodigal daughter. Thought you were too busy for family." I didn't flinch. "Happy Father's Day," I said. He smiled like he'd just won something. "I was beginning to think you forgot what that meant." I looked at the table. Crystal glasses, white linen, menus with printed names. Douglas Mercer at the top, no mention of me. They'd ordered without me. Of course they had. My wine glass was full, untouched. The light caught it just right, reflecting nothing back. I tilted it once, then set it down. The waiter came and went. Appetizers landed. Blake talked about golf. Chad mentioned a potential investor. Dad nodded through it all like a king listening to court jesters. No one asked what I'd been doing. That was the plan. Every detail of the night had been curated. The placement, the view, the engine still warm outside. Even the moment the candle on the table started to flicker, like something knew what was coming. "Why now?" Dad asked, finally looking at me. "Why show up after all this time?" I smiled, calm, centered. "I brought a gift," I said, reaching for my purse. The hum of the engine outside cut through the patio glass. Nobody noticed, but they would, very soon. He laughed when I said I had something to show him. He wasn't laughing 2 pages in. "I brought a gift," I said again, louder this time. The table quieted. Wine glasses hovered midair. Forks paused. Only the candle dared flicker. Dad smirked like I was about to hand him a tie. "Didn't know you were the sentimental type, Sloane." I stood slowly, pulled the black envelope from my purse, and walked around the table, not rushed, not timid. I placed it right in front of him, the same spot he used to drop my report cards without reading. He didn't touch it, just eyed it like it might explode. Chad leaned forward, squinting. "She wrote a poem or something?" Blake snorted. "This should be good." Dad finally opened the flap. The paper inside was thick, matte, unforgiving. The first page held the letterhead of Monroe Equity Group. The second had my name. The third had his, crossed out. He started reading aloud, voice casual. "Effective May 1st, controlling interest in..." He stopped, blinked, looked down again, read faster. His fingers curled around the bottom edge. His other hand found the clipped access card. His mouth opened, then closed. He flipped to the second page, like a man hoping the ending might save him. It didn't. "What is this?" he asked, but the tone was already breaking. "An update," I said. "To your title." Chad laughed. "Dad, is this a joke?" No one joined him. I leaned forward slightly, just enough for Dad to see the signature at the bottom. Monroe, Sloane Monroe, the name he never noticed. "You're out," I said. "Ceremonial advisor only. No votes, no access, effective immediately." His hand trembled ever so slightly. The wine glass beside him shifted. He tried to speak again, but I cut him off. "I revoked your credentials 3 weeks ago," I said. "You've been locked out since the day you got promoted." Blake's jaw dropped. "Wait, what?" Chad went pale. "You're serious?" No one laughed this time. The restaurant noise faded. Even the waiters stilled. I straightened my napkin, then sat down. Calm, centered, their world tilted. Mine finally aligned. Dad looked at me. Really looked, like he'd never seen me before. But it was too late. Blake's fork hit the floor. Chad turned to Dad, and for once Dad had nothing to say. The room made no noise, but my footsteps on marble might as well have been gunshots. Nobody moved, not at first. The candle still flickered. My wine glass still sat full. The envelope lay open in front of my father, pages scattered, some face down, some unread. He gripped the top sheet like he could rewrite it just by holding on harder. This isn't binding," he said, voice cracking. "You didn't go through the board." "I did," I said, calm. "They signed 3 weeks ago." He blinked. "You manipulated them." "No," I said, "I paid them." Chad pushed his chair back hard, silverware clattering. "You can't just walk in and take everything." "I didn't walk in," I said, standing. "I built it, while you were laughing at interns." Blake looked pale, eyes darting between Dad and me like a tennis match. "Wait, so you're running the company now?" he asked, voice small. "I've been running it." Dad looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "You're just, what, trying to prove a point? You think this makes you better?" "No," I said, buttoning my coat. "It just makes me in charge." I didn't raise my voice, didn't gloat, didn't need to. The power had already shifted. They just hadn't caught up. Chad opened his mouth again, but the words stuck. Blake still hadn't touched his steak. The plates around the table were frozen mid-meal. Half-eaten shrimp, wine rings on linen, butter knives pointed at nothing. My seat was empty. So was my glass. Dad was still holding the card I'd clipped to the contract, his old access badge. He looked at it like it had betrayed him. Let's talk, he said finally, quieter. Just you and me. I met his eyes, cold, clear. We've already talked, Dad. You just never listened. I pushed in my chair, adjusted the clutch on my wrist. The hum of my car outside cut through the patio doors like a countdown. I walked past them all, Chad fuming, Blake frozen, Dad slumped. Nobody stopped me, nobody stood. I didn't turn around. The waiter held the door open, confused but too polite to ask. I stepped into the night, crisp air, harbor lights, the sound of something breaking behind me, but it wasn't mine. They didn't follow me out. They couldn't. The office door still had his name on it. I had it replaced that morning. It was 8:45 when the facilities crew arrived, brushed steel letters in hand. Douglas Mercer, Executive Suite came down without ceremony. No photos, no tribute, just a quiet click, scrape, replace. The new plate gleamed under the overhead lights. Sloane Mercer, CEO, not Monroe, not hidden, not ashamed. I walked past reception without saying a word. The new assistant, one I'd hired myself, nodded once, eyes wide, posture straight. "Boardroom's ready," she said. "I know." I liked the way my heels sounded on the marble. Clean, unhurried, final. Every step echoed like punctuation. Inside, the executive team waited in pressed suits and silenced phones. No jokes today, no backslaps, just breath held in collective anticipation. I didn't waste time. "Effective immediately," I said. "The Mercer Legacy Division is dissolved. All projects absorbed under core strategy." One man shifted, another flinched. I kept going. "Leadership structure has been flattened. All prior approvals routed through my office until further notice." No questions, no objections. They'd seen the memo earlier that morning, brief, sharp, delivered via secured internal channel. Subject line, leadership realignment. From the office of the CEO, signed at the bottom, Sloane Mercer. Two words they never expected to see together. I returned to the executive suite, my suite, and sat at the desk my father once called his command post. The inbox he'd used for 10 years now blinked red. Access disabled. A small potted orchid sat in the corner of the desk. White petals, clean slate. It had arrived that morning without a note. I knew who sent it. Maya always understood symbolism. I leaned back, fingers steepled under my chin, and let the silence settle. There were no calls, no apologies, only emails from teams I'd built, updates from platforms I'd funded, performance metrics rising where doubt used to live. A copy of the old org chart sat in my drawer. I didn't shred it. I didn't need to. I simply opened a new one and titled it Phase 2, Monroe Systems, DBA Mercer and Company, because I hadn't erased the family name. I had reclaimed it. And for the first time, the company bore my name, and they all knew it. Power isn't loud. It's the silence after a door closes behind you, for the last time. I stopped counting the days they didn't call. It wasn't bitterness, just math. The boardroom no longer needed my voice every morning. The company no longer ran on fire drills and egos. I taught it how to breathe. The marble floors still echoed when I walked through the lobby, but now the sound didn't chase me. It followed. I didn't dress for war anymore, didn't carry the envelope, didn't grip the wheel like a lifeline. Most mornings, I didn't even go in, but today I did. A junior analyst in oversized glasses passed me in the hallway, arms full of reports. She froze, turned, blinked once. "Sorry, are you?" she asked, brow furrowed. "You're her, right? The one who changed everything?" I smiled, nodded once. That's what they say. She didn't ask for a photo, didn't ask for my title. She just kept walking, shoulders a little straighter than before. I stepped into the boardroom. Morning light poured in through the tall glass, catching the dust on the chairs no one had used in weeks. The coffee on the table was still warm. I didn't drink it. On the far wall, framed in simple black, hung a single photo. Me standing alone at the ribbon-cutting ceremony last fall. No brothers, no father, just me. Holding the shears, smiling without apology. There was a time I would have sent that photo to my family, waited for a text, hoped for one word. Proud. But now? Now the silence was the answer I'd always needed. It meant I didn't owe anyone anything. Not anymore. They'd spent years writing my role in pencil. I'd printed mine in ink. I gathered my coat, glanced once more at the desk, and walked out without looking back. I didn't inherit the legacy, I rewrote it. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop asking to be seen and start seeing yourself. There's a quiet kind of power that comes when you no longer need the applause, the permission, or the seat at their table. When you stop chasing validation from the people who only ever loved a version of you that stayed small, you begin to realize silence isn't emptiness, it's clarity, space to build, space to become. Setting boundaries doesn't make you cold, it makes you free. And choosing yourself, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, is one of the most courageous things you'll ever do, especially when you've been taught that your worth is measured by how useful, quiet, or convenient you can be. Growth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's one decision after another, made in solitude, carried out in discipline, and fueled by a fire no one else can see. And when the time comes to reveal who you've become, it won't be to prove anything. It'll be to take your place, because healing isn't about going back to who you were, it's about stepping forward into who you were never allowed to be. And when you do, the silence you once feared becomes the echo of your own strength, undeniable, unshakable, yours. Thank you for spending time with this story. If it stirred something in you, if you've ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or quietly caring more than anyone realized, just know this: you're not alone. There's a quiet strength in choosing yourself, in walking away from what no longer honors you and building something no one can take. If this story reflected even a piece of your own, I'd love to hear it. Feel free to share in the comments. Your voice matters here. And if you'd like more stories that speak to that silent, resilient part of you, the part that rises even without permission, feel free to like, share, or subscribe. Only if it feels right. Until next time, take care of your strength. It's louder than you think.